In this video, we're going to add some reverb to the entire drum mix, and we're going to do that using a room sound. Now, the reason to do this is to put a sense of space around the drums to give it this sense it was recorded in a really nice room. Now, we want to use reverb on the drums in a song like this very sparingly. Otherwise, the drums will get back in the mix too much where we want them kind of out front and really punchy. However, it does give it more of a finished effect, and it's going to sound more like a record if we add a little bit of reverb to the drums. Now, I've used pretty simple, straightforward tools to do this. I've already added a drum room bus, and you've seen how to do that. Now, in all the different drum channels, I've assigned the send to the drum room. And then in the actual drum room channel, I've got a Sonitis reverb, which is just a very standard old reverb that we've used for years and years in Sonar. And under the presets, I use drum room as the starting point. I've tweaked mostly just the input level just to make sure I've got some level. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I followed it with an EQ because I'm actually modifying the sound of this quite a bit by taking a lot of the low end and some of the high end off. Now, the other thing I've done is I've grouped all these sends. So I've actually added a group called Drum Room Send Level. Drum Room Send Level, and I've assigned it to all these knobs. That way, when I turn any of them, they'll all turn together. I really don't have much of this on the kick. Actually, I don't want this on these kick samples either. If I want a little bit more on the snare, I can just hold down Control and add this in that way. Usually I might want a little bit more on the snare than on the other instruments. So with it set up this way, I'll play back and I'll cut this reverb in and out. Now, I've got this reverb routed to one of my 4 main submixes, and that's the effects bus. That allows me to turn all of my effects on and off together. Sometimes with the drum reverb, it actually sounds better to run it through the drum bus and pick up the parallel compression. And so I'm going to make that change now so you can hear the difference. So I'll get it set up playing back here, and then I'll switch it over to the other bus. Yeah, see, to my ear, getting the whole effect of the way the compressor's working in the bus, it just sounds a lot better going through there. It's also going through the tape plugin that I showed you earlier. So with that set up that way, I think I've got the reverb pretty much tweaked. As we go through the actual final mixing process, then we'll adjust these levels. Right now, I'll play back a little bit more with some of the music in plays.
Getting pretty thin.
The main thing with this reverb is to make sure that we just don't use too much. Otherwise, the mix sounds like just kind of a wash of sound. So I'm not going to add any reverb to the kick because I want to make sure that it's got definition. And with that, we've got our drum reverb set up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.